Now, again, even if that's true, reparations would still be retarded, but it's not true. Like, it's definitely not true in this case. Well, the comedian Roy Wood Jr. appeared on the Shannon Sharp podcast, I guess a couple of days ago, and he confessed to something quite bizarre. This is one of the weirder things that we've heard someone say on a podcast, and that is saying quite a lot. Listen to this.
Found the white family that purchased the first black wood of my bloodline off the slave ships in Charleston.
Yep, that's what we came off of.
If I wanted to today, I could find the white wood descendants in southern Georgia and pull up on their house. One day I will.
Yeah.
They ain't got no money though. I Zillowed they crib. They broke. Like, yeah. That's the thing we'll talk about with slavery, man, is that there was a lot of white people fumbled. Like, yo.
They fumbled the bag?
Yeah, you had working for you, you still couldn't come up. How you broke and you had slaves?
Yeah, that was valuable. That was gold.
They fumbled, bro.
Yeah, how you broke and you had slaves? How you broke? Well, I think they broke because they didn't have slaves, Roy. I think that's how. They didn't actually have slaves. Those people never had slaves. Somebody 200 years ago had slaves, but they didn't. So if you pulled up on their crib, I'm not sure what you'd be looking for. I don't know if you're going to run in there trying to free the slaves. Let my people go. No more slavery. You can't have slaves. Free them. I don't know if you're going to try to, set up an underground railroad from their house to free all the slaves, but you're just going to be shouting at like a nice white family while they're eating dinner, and they're going to be totally confused staring at you because they don't have slaves, and their parents didn't, and their grandparents didn't, and their great-grandparents didn't, and their great-great-great-grandparents didn't. Actually, it's funny because this raises a point that I don't think Roy wanted to raise. It's true that having slaves did not translate into generational wealth for a lot of these families. At least not like 15 generations of wealth or whatever. That's because, for one thing, it's been a really long time. Also, there was a civil war that was fought. But, and the South was decimated and bankrupted. But also, slavery was a counterproductive system economically. If anything, slavery held the South back. And that's interesting to note because it totally cuts against the claim that America was built on slavery. It was not. America was held back by slavery, if anything. And the other point, which a lot of people have made, not that this creepy outburst really calls for us to make points, doesn't really call for a rebuttal, but whatever. So the other point people have made is the obvious one, which is, like, why don't you go back to Africa and find the family that captured your ancestors and sold them into slavery to begin with? Why aren't you mad at them? Have you looked them up? You could probably find them. Find the family that kept your ancestors were captured in Africa. And not by any European, but by an African and sold into slavery. Have you tried to track them down? Have you looked them up on Zillow? I mean, that probably won't work. They probably don't live in the kind of home you can find on Zillow, but why don't you focus your attention on them? Go hold them to account for something that their distant relatives did 200 years ago. And it's also funny because, I've gotten in trouble for saying this, but when you think about a guy like Roy Wood, well, you've never thought about Roy Wood, but now that you are for this brief moment in time, and you think about him feeling angry at the family that bought his ancestors or brought them here as slaves. It's like feeling angry at them. Well, it doesn't really make sense. And this is one point about reparations that is rarely brought up. And sometimes it is, but it's rarely brought up. And it's a point that can be easy to misconstrue and take out of context. So whatever, that's fine. But the point is this, that reparations assumes that there is something to be repaired, that your life is worse now than it would have been had this thing not happened. Now, again, even if that's true, reparations would still be retarded, but it's not true. Like, it's definitely not true in this case. Roy Wood, if his ancestors weren't brought here, I mean, he's still mad. He almost gets emotional when he's talking about it, or at least is pretending to. A little bit of acting there. But as he's talking about it, you can see it's like seething anger he has. He's so angry about it that his ancestors were enslaved 200 years ago. 2 centuries later, he's still so angry about it that he's obsessing over it. But then you have to ask, well, what are you angry about now? Do you wish that if your ancestors were not brought here, you would be living in Africa right now. So you are in a better place now, much better than you would have been had the bad thing not happened. Actually, you probably wouldn't exist at all. If your bloodline had stayed in Africa for these past 200 years, it's a very high chance that it would have been wiped out by tribal warfare, disease. If that hadn't happened, this thing that you're still mad about somehow that didn't happen to you, but if it hadn't happened, then either you'd be living in Africa now or you would not exist. So there's something just incoherent about being angry at something that happened centuries ago and something that without it happening, you would not exist. Or if you did exist, you would exist in a much worse condition than you currently do. Now, does that make slavery good? Is that a justification? Obviously not. And if you take what I'm saying that way, then you're just a stupid or dishonest person, and that's your problem. All I'm saying is the fact that it's just a fact. I mean, you can't dispute it. Roy Wood is almost certainly in a better position today now than he would have been had his ancestors not been brought here by slaves. That's the kind of thing that people could get mad at you saying, but they can't dispute it. They can, well, how dare you say that? Yeah, but am I wrong? Well, no, but still, how dare you say it? There's a lot of that. And so but this is a freeing thing, right? Roy, I mean, free yourself. You are free. Your parents were free, your grandparents, your great-grandparents. So, you've been free your whole life. Your family's been free for a very long time. Legally free, physically free, you can go do what you want. But your mind is still trapped, right? Your mind is enslaved. You've enslaved your own mind through resentment, misplaced rage, anger, blame. Whatever it is you're upset about in your own life, you're blaming this random family in the suburbs. Right? You even admit they don't have any money, like they've got problems of their own. You're living better than they are. And you're enslaved by it. So free yourself. And this is one of the ways, is to realize that, this thing was bad, but A, it didn't happen to me, and B, I'm in a better spot today because of it. So, what is there to be angry about at this point? What is there for me to be angry about? There's a lot for my ancestors who died a long time ago to be angry about, but they're not here anymore. They're dead. What is there for me personally to be angry about? Well, not much. Hey, YouTube, thanks for listening to the show. If you'd like access to my full show with no ads, you should go to dailywire.com and use promo code Walsh to get 2 months free on all annual plans. See you there.